Hi everyone. In this short course I will explain what framing and reframing is and why it is so relevant for design thinking. I'm Guido Stompff, I'm Professor of Design Thinking at Inholland University of Applied Sciences. In other courses I explained what design thinking is, why you should apply it and how it is done. And the shortest brief summary is saying that it is basically learning by creating. You learn what the problem is and what a good solution might be by creating things and testing them. In other courses, I explained briefly that framing is essential for design thinking. You start any iteration by framing the situation, deciding what you think is important and how you will look at it. But the question is, what is actually a frame? Theorists discussed about that a lot already in the past, and still it's quite hard to explain what a frame is. I like this definition of Carl Wake best from his book Sense Making in Organizations. He said frames are perceptual frameworks that categorize what we see, what we know, and that guide our thinking. You can compare it a bit with your glasses that you may wear. They help us to see the world around us, but at the same time, they in a way shape what we see as well, because what's outside of our viewing range through the glasses is simply not seen. So what we see, what we perceive, categorize and shape what we will observe and consider in our thinking, and consequently what we will do. Trying to define one thing may be hard, but showing what it is actually quite easy. Frames are always operating. Even when you listen to me, frames are operating. And let me give you an example so that you discover what frame you have right now as well. Please give a wrong answer to the following question. What is the capital of France? So please give a wrong answer. I give you some time. Now, I expect that you answered something like London or Amsterdam or Madrid. Or that's also possible that you answered something like Marseille or Lyon. The thing is, you're not wrong. All these answers are wrong answers, so you did well. But at the same time, you could also have said cauliflower or the Beatles or guitar or tree or yellow, and I can go on like this forever. All these solutions would have been wrong answers as well to the question. However, I framed you by asking you what's the capital of France and showing you the Eiffel Tower as well. You are still probably framed by either capitals, so you start naming other capitals, but not of France, or you start naming other cities, part of France, and not so much capitals of other countries. Now, maybe you did escape my frame, then my compliments, then you are aware of your frame. There is another thing that's really important with frames when it comes to design thinking. And Kees Dorst, who wrote his, I would say, entire life on frames and framing and things like that, he mentioned in his book in 2015 a very important aspect. Not only do these frames shape what we hear and how we perceive and interpret any situation, but also it serves as guidance for what we see as a preferred future and even offer working principles how to get there. So what he is saying right now is that a frame is not just the kind of filter how we look at the world and see what is of importance to us. No, it's also shaping what we think are good solutions, in what direction we like to go and how do we think we will get there. So frames are not just framing the problem, they're also framing the solution at the same time. Now, I hope you got a little bit of feel of what a frame is, and I like to highlight 3 implications for design thinking briefly. First is Frames guide your thinking and also what you may consider as good and bad and what possible futures are. So put simply, frames guide all design activities. So better become aware of your frames. And because frames guide design activities, the quality of frames also defines the qualities of the end result. So you can better spend a lot of time in developing good frames that are novel, that are inspiring, that are intriguing, than just stick to the first most obvious one that comes to mind. The second implication is one frame won't do. There are always multiple frames possible and imaginable, and you better try to explore multiple frames before you start making your final design. I'll give you an example. Let's imagine that there is a big city somewhere in Europe and where they have problems with growing criminality, especially at night when young people go out. Guys get drunk, they fight, they harass girls, and so on. This is something that can be seen all over. Now, how can you frame? I did this exercise a lot of times with students, with startups, with managers, and always you see several frames popping up. Some of you like to see more police or to have more surveillance cameras and things like that. Others don't trust what the police will be doing or if they are in time or not. So they think everyone should be more self-reliant and learn to defend her or himself. Then others say, it's alcohol and drugs which causes all these problems. So let's ban alcohol and drugs. Totally different frame. Then there are people who say it has something to do with that it is boring to be out there. These guys are bored, they drink too much, have nothing to do, and have a fight in the end. So maybe we should give them more to do. And then there are also people who say it's all about identity. And we need role models who show how you respectfully engage with other people, how you respect girls, how you respect other men. Now, I hope that you understand that all these frames might have some interesting ideas to explore, but also see the problem differently and will do different analysis. Now, and to know what is the best is simply impossible before you explore some frames. That's exactly what designers do. They try to find multiple frames, explore them, invite others to co-create with them in order to have more than one frame, different frames, novel frames, and so on. There were interesting studies done in the past, for instance by Brian Lawson, who compared senior designers with junior or student designers. And actually, the biggest difference that he saw between experienced designers and unexperienced designers was not so much how they could draw or make models or argue or do analysis. No, the biggest difference is that senior designers develop many more frames than unexperienced designers. Unexperienced people tend to pick a frame, the most obvious one, start designing and stick to it, come hell or high water. Senior designers, they explore 5, 6, 7 frames before really starting a design. Now, the third and last implication has something to do with how new frames are incited. And that actually very often happens due to a surprise. If you see something out of the ordinary, something you did not expect, you probably will be surprised and have to reframe. How does that work? Just imagine that you're drawing. You have a white paper and you don't know what to do. You have to design something. And while you drink your coffee, you take up your cup and you see that your cup made a stain on the white paper. And actually, to be honest, it intrigues you. There's some beauty in it. It's unexpected, has nothing to do with your design, does not fit the expectations you have, but there is a sense of beauty in there. There is something in there that tricks your mind to start reflecting. And Maybe you like the frame of the coffee stain, the circle, the beautiful circle is so interesting that you decide to explore it. You start to ideate, make variations. And in that sense, it guides your activities. So this surprise reframed you. It gave you a new direction to explore, which in the end may result into great ideas. Ideas you would never would have come consider for yourself unless the coffee stain was there. Now, I hope that you understand a little bit what a frame is and why it is so important for design. I hope to see you in other courses. Thank you for your time.